some money. We got you $480 million last year, the first increase for the administration of Social Security in many, many years. Because we know that in Vermont or in Oregon and all over this country, when people are walking into or calling up Social Security offices, they're not getting the kind of response that they need because of lack of staffing. So we have made a start in that area, but we're going to keep going to make sure that the people of this country know that when they have a problem with Social Security, they're going to get the prompt attention that they deserve. I also want to thank Social Security Works, Nancy and everybody else for the great work that they have done over the years. To thank the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare Max. Thank you for all that you have done. The Alliance for Retired Americans, Latinos for Secure Retirement, the Restaurant Opportunity Center, and others for being here with us this morning. This is an issue of enormous consequence to tens of millions of people. It does not get the attention that it deserves, and we're here today to change that. In my humble opinion, a great nation is not judged historically by the number of billionaires it has or by the number of nuclear weapons it has. It is judged by how it treats the weakest and most vulnerable people amongst us. And when we talk about vulnerable people, you know, it goes without saying. These are folks who are in their 80s and their 90s, people who have worked their entire lives, people who have raised us as children, people who have gone out into the economy and worked for 40 or 50 years to grow our economy, people who have put their lives on the line to defend us in war. And what we are saying today to those senior citizens who are struggling economically to live out their last years with dignity, we will no longer turn our backs on you. Now, there is some kind of mythology circulating around this country that says that all seniors are doing well, not a problem. And what we are saying is that is absolutely untrue. In America today, 20% of senior citizens are trying to survive on an income of less than $13,500. You know, I throw out, as my colleagues here do, we throw out a lot of numbers. But this one has always startled me. I want you to think for a moment, being 85 years of age, having health care needs, having to keep your home warm in the winter. How in God's name do you do that on $13,500? You don't. And everybody up here in one way or another is involved with the Meals on Wheels program, other programs for seniors, waiting lists all over this country. Seniors desperately trying to get one good meal a day, and we don't even have the ability to provide that to all of the seniors in need. Furthermore, we're not just here talking about people who are 70, 80, or 90. We are talking about workers 55 years of age or older, half of whom have no retirement savings. All right, think about that. Think about that. In the wealthiest country in the history of the world, you got people by the millions who are 60 years of age, have worked their entire lives, scared to death about what happens to them when they retire from their jobs. They got zero in the bank, and they turn on the television. And there is Mitch McConnell or Paul Ryan or other Republicans saying, we are going to cut Social Security while we're giving tax breaks to billionaires. And we say today they got their priorities backwards. We're going to tax the billionaires and expand Social Security. Now, when you turn on the TV, our Republican friends say, well, it's too bad, but Social Security is going broke. That is a lie. Social Security has a $2.9 trillion surplus in its trust fund and can pay out every benefit owed to every eligible American for the next 15 years. And after that, the Social Security Administration estimates that there will be enough funding available to pay out 79% of the benefits to eligible Americans. We are here today to say that we can and must do much better than that. We're here to say today we are going to expand Social Security benefits, and we are going to extend the life of Social Security for our kids and our grandchildren. Well, how do we do that? All right, easy to say, well, how do we do that? And we are united here to say that we're going to do that by having the wealthiest people in this country finally start paying their fair share of taxes. As everybody in this room knows, because of the earnings cap on Social Security taxes, a multi-billionaire pays exactly the same amount of money into Social Security as someone who earns $132,900 a year. This is an absolutely regressive approach to taxation, and today we say that is going to end. It is time to scrap the cap. And our legislation does that by applying the Social Security payroll tax on all income, including capital gains and dividends for those who make over $250,000 a year. Under our bill, 98.2% of the American people will not pay a nickel more in taxes. And let me give you an example of the absurdity of the current Social Security payroll tax system. Donald Trump said, no, he doesn't always tell us the truth. We know that. Donald Trump claimed that he made $694 million in 2016. If that is accurate, he stopped paying Social Security payroll taxes 40 minutes into January 1st of that year. Meanwhile, the average middle-class person paid Social Security taxes for the entire year. That is absurd, and that has got to end. The other thing that our legislation does, which is also quite important, is it makes more accurate the measure for COLAs. Right now, the COLA measures the purchasing practices of all Americans. Seniors have different purchasing needs, and often they are spending more than the general public. So, we are here today, and I'm delighted to have so many members of the House and the Senate here. We are here today to stand with seniors and to say that at a time when so many are hurting, we're going to do everything we can to protect and expand Social Security. It now gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce somebody who has been in this fight for many, many years, one of the leaders in the House, Congressman Peter DeFazio. Peter.
Well, sensible things take a long time to happen in this somewhat addled town, and Bernie and I have been working on this for a quarter of a century at least, and I think its time has come. 15 years is not so far into the future when Social Security will have to reduce promised benefits. Yeah, it won't be broke, but a 20% cut is very substantial in the benefits that people have been expecting to receive, particularly now that most people do not have guaranteed pensions anymore, and they're subject to the vicissitudes of the market and 401ks. So, and they say, well, how are you going to do that? And we heard the former Speaker, Paul Ryan, say, well, we'll increase the retirement age again. I haven't ever met, well, there may be somewhere in my district a 70-year-old logger out there, but most people are pretty broken up by the actual retirement age today. They say, well, we'll just have to reduce benefits. Well, this is a contract with the American people, and it's not necessary to do that. This is pretty simple if you think about it. As Bernie said, a minuscule portion of the American people would pay more in taxes under this bill. It would make Social Security solvent for the predictable future. We also would have a meaningful cost of living index, a real one, for seniors on the things they really have to buy. What Bernie and I have also been working on for a quarter of a century, the CPIE. And we would also help the lowest income workers by raising their replacement ratio by a bit. This would benefit not only today's seniors, but future generations of Americans who are going to have trouble in retirement as much as people are having today, or maybe even more trouble, because even fewer of them will have pensions. Just think of it this way. It's Valentine's week. And what a gift for someone who earns $1 million a year. They stop paying Social Security taxes, and their income goes up by $46,500, which is about 4 times what many 20% of seniors are trying to get by on. I don't think, maybe they would have to delay polishing the yacht, or I don't know what the deal would be. But, if they're good citizens, they should not object to this. This is for all Americans, all America. It's about safety and security and retirement after lives well and hard lived in the productive part of our economy. So scrap the cap now. I got to go back to my hearing.
Okay, Senator Jeff Merkley has been a long and strong fighter for senior citizens. Jeff?
Thank you. When I look across America right now, I don't see the vision of our Constitution, the we the people vision of our Constitution being implemented. What have we seen in the Senate? We've seen an effort to strip health care from some 20 to 30 million Americans. Is that government by and for the people? No. We have seen a tax bill that reaches in and takes $1.5 trillion, $2 trillion with interest, and gives it to the richest Americans. Is that government by and for the people? No. Is the neglect and the undermining of a fair retirement for our seniors government by and for the people? No. So how about this? How about we restore government by and for the people and start by getting Social Security restored to a strong foundation? When Franklin Roosevelt signed Social Security into law in 1935, he said, "A cornerstone in a structure that is being built, but is by no means complete." And as we stand here today, in the year 2019, the structure is in need of repair. Is it okay that 15 years from now, we're only going to be able to pay some 78% and not 100% of the benefits promised to Americans? And think about it this way, it's more important now than it was 20 years ago because so many Americans no longer have pensions that they had previously. So they're depending on this rock, this contract between generations, this Social Security foundation to have a decent retirement. And here's the thing, right now for a good 2/3 of Americans, it constitutes more than 50% of their income in retirement. And for 1/3, so let's think of every senior we know across the land. Picture that grandmother wrestling with whether to pay rent or to buy food, or that grandfather who's wrestling with the fact that, well, their IRA was wiped out by the Wall Street collapse of 2008. They didn't have a pension, or their pension went bankrupt before they could be paid. So they're depending on, so 1/3 of Americans depending on it for essentially their entire retirement income. So here we are today, standing up and saying, we want government by and for the people, and we want to fix Social Security, and we want to do it this year, right now. Let's get it done. Thank you all, and God bless.
Please welcome Senator Kirsten Gillibrand.
Thank you, Bernie. I love the fire in this room. I gotta tell you, I love the fire in this room. We know that Social Security was the greatest social safety net ever created in the history of America. Americans will tell you, people who voted for Trump will tell you, get your hands off my Social Security. It's something people have earned. It's an earned benefit. They've bought into it their whole lives. But it was not structured in a way that is resilient enough. It is not strong enough to take on the needs of today. And for most people, that Social Security check is not enough to make ends meet. It is not enough to actually buy what families need for medicines, for heat, for food. It's not enough. It's below the poverty line for many people. And many people in America are on fixed income. So when you say you're going to privatize Social Security and make it at the whims of the stock market, they're going to be very afraid because they know it is their lifeline. And it is so much a lifeline for people when they go through trauma and death and loss. One of my constituents, when his wife died, they had a special needs daughter. He had to give up his job and go into poverty to care for his special needs daughter. Another husband lost his wife and did not have enough money to make ends meet without her income, couldn't afford his prescription drugs. This is a reality. It is a reality for too many American families. So the reason why this bill is so strong is because it fixes the problem. First of all, it blows the cap. Most important thing you could do is make sure everyone invests their money into Social Security, making sure you don't get a preference for ownership as opposed to work. Today, the only people who pay into Social Security is earned income. What about dividend income? What about capital gains? Why do owners get a lower tax rate than everybody else? Why do owners have to pay less money than everyone else? This should be the common good fund. It should be the social safety net that everyone invests in. They should invest 6.2% of all their income. So this bill's really smart. It blows the cap, makes sure all income above $250 is covered, which makes a huge difference. It also changes how we account for what the Social Security check actually is. It will actually begin to cover the real costs of things. You know, I can't stand it when the political elite say, oh, why don't we just do chained CPI. Okay, well, that's a fancy word to say give you less money because it doesn't cover the cost of things. That is not how you shore up Social Security. You shore up Social Security by blowing the cap, by making sure the reimbursement rates and the numbers that are used as your analysis for how much you're going to get reflect the cost of things. So this is a great bill. It is strong. It is effective. It will strengthen Social Security. It will make it more resilient. It will make sure that every American is paying in for the common good, for this best of social safety nets, and I believe we can get this done. With your voices, the only time anything ever works in Washington is when you stand up and demand it. With your voices, we will get this done.
Thank you. Please welcome Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey.
It is so good to be here with everyone this morning where we stand together to support our common values and our common ideals, everything we enjoy in this vast nation. I love ideals of rugged individualism, but rugged individualism didn't build this country, didn't get us to the moon, didn't map the human genome, didn't build the Underground Railroad. We are Americans, and we got here through collective sacrifice, through common struggle. We all understand that we reap blessings, but unfortunately that idea of common sacrifice, collective struggle, all of us in this together seems to have fallen drastically short when it comes to investing in what should be our critical, most important priority. Those who are at the youngest ages of life and those who are in their senior years. We have a system right now that is fundamentally broken, fundamentally unfair, violates the very ideals and principles of collective struggle and common sacrifice. This cap constitutes a regressive, backwards, unfair limit on our ability to create a system that supports us all. We need to scrap the cap, and we need to make sure that in this country, everyone is paying their fair share. We have seen too much of recent manufactured crises that don't really exist. There is no crisis in Social Security. If we had a fair taxation system, then everyone in this country would have what governments are formed to give the common defense, to give for common security. The stories in this country, from coast to coast, from the Great Lakes to the Gulf states, are painful. Millions of Americans in their senior years living in poverty, making the most painful of decisions, being left isolated and alone. That's not who America is. This legislation is just. This legislation is right. This legislation reflects our deepest values and honors our history of collective sacrifice and struggle. And the beautiful thing about the design of this legislation is it not only creates a fairness, but it fixes the problem and doesn't affect literally millions of Americans. I am proud of this legislation. I want to thank the congressman and the senator for sponsoring it. But it's not enough for us to push this forward. Now we must get it done. We must get this done. We have the legislation, but remember, change doesn't come from Washington, it comes to Washington. And so I call upon everyone here who knows the crisis, who doesn't believe this nation should leave anybody behind, who understands the pain of those seniors who make the most painful decisions every day, who've been rendered into poverty, or see their costs of living go up and up and up, and Social Security not keeping up. All of us now must join again in a collective chorus of consciousness to spark the moral imagination of this country so we be who we say we are, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. Sometimes I think we take Social Security for granted. Yeah, it's there. And now we're going to hear from a gentleman who is going to remind us of the importance of Social Security and what these benefits mean to ordinary Americans. Please welcome Julian Blair.
Good morning. Good morning. It's wonderful that we're having this conversation. It's wonderful that this bill is coming before the country to be passed. But I want to remind you that it affects real people. I just want to tell you a couple stories. First one I'm going to tell you, my father, my stepdad, he's passed, but he worked 42 years, a full-time and a part-time job, a prideful man. I can take care of my family. I can do the things that I need to do to make sure that I'm a good citizen. He retired. His retirement income plus his Social Security caused him to go back to work. He could not make it. And I watched this man cry because his dignity was gone. It's a shame. We should not live like that in this country. Secondly, I have a friend. Her name is Jan Brown. I'll even tell you her name. She lives in Silver Spring, Maryland. 87 years old. Worked all of her life. Retired. Was retired for 15 years. You know what she did 6 months ago? She had to go back to work. Because her income could not cover her basic needs. I'm not talking about vacations. I'm not talking about Cadillacs. I'm talking about food, drink, medicine. That's why this is important. It affects real people. And I'm here today to do two things. I'm begging everyone who hear any voice here, read any newspaper, to get behind this bill. And also to offer my whatever you need to get this passed, because scrap. And the second question that I get a lot is, what is fair in this country? Is it fair for me to make $50,000 and pay this percentage on my Social Security, and you make $200,000 and pay this percentage? Is that fair? Nope. Where's fairness in what we do? And the bottom line is, all of our neighbors are doing well. We're not doing well. So please get behind this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
J. David Cox is the president of AFGE. He has been a busy man lately, trying to make sure that the government stays open and hundreds of thousands of workers And he has been a strong, strong fighter for Social Security. David, come on up.
Thank you so much, Senator, Senator, Senator. I started drawing Social Security when I was 6 years old because my father passed away. I still remember, with small memories in my mind, my mom getting me in the car, going down to the Social Security office to apply for that benefit. Did I really know what was going on? No, I was a 6-year-old kid. But most of all, I now remember clearly, it was a Social Security employee, a government employee, that met her at the door, that helped her figure out how to get the earned benefits that my father had paid in for us, that made all the difference in our lives. So I come to you today. I support this legislation. AFGE supports it wholeheartedly. But a benefit of Social Security is having your community Social Security offices available to service the American people. We've got to have that. We cannot close Social Security offices. We can't have less Social Security employees processing the claims and slowing them down and bogging up the system. People have paid. It's an earned benefit. It is our right to receive Social Security. And all government employees, all of us, pay into Social Security. It is part of our retirement also. So we're doubly vested in the Social Security process. It's our job. It's also part of our retirement, and we believe in it so much. And when you talk to the Social Security employees, they will tell you, those that work on the disability claims, I mean, you'll see the passion that they can't get the claims processed fast enough because they know those people are in desperate need, that they need those claims processed. So we have to scrap the cap. Scrap that cap with everything that we have got. Number one, to expand benefits for the American people, but also to have those employees who can service the American people as part of the Social Security benefit. So scrap the cap with everything you've got. And thank you, Senator.
Okay. You heard from everybody up here one simple point. Very few people believe in tax breaks for billionaires. That's what Trump and his friends did. The vast majority of the American people believe that we should expand and extend Social Security benefits. You got a government that represents the wealthy and the powerful. Our job is to get a government that represents all of us. And the only way we do that is when we mobilize millions of people to say that we're going to protect our seniors, we're going to extend the life of Social Security, we're going to expand Social Security benefits, and when the American people speak by the millions, this Congress will listen. Let's go out and do it. Thank you all very much.